I was going to create a video about modern data infrastructure, and I was thinking about some of the other content I saw on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and how the modern data infrastructure keeps changing. And I thought, wouldn't it be better for us to think about what we want to see in a data infrastructure as opposed to sharing the tools? Because once upon a time, 5chan was one of the best tools. Now it is too expensive. Once upon a time, Azure was one of the best tools. Now people think they're not able to get depth from it. Once upon a time, different tools were great. I can remember when I started data engineering, we were creating data cubes. But now we don't need to create data cubes. There are so many ways that we can do that instead of creating like a Microsoft cube using the Microsoft SQL Server, using SSIS, SSMS, and all of that. But the point here is, instead of thinking about it in tools, think about it in what you're trying to achieve. So primarily, there are 3 layers. So you can call it the gold, the silver, the bronze, or you can call it the data ingestion layer. You can call it the data transformation layer, and you can call it the data presentation layer. Data ingestion, how do you get your data in? Data transformation, how do you consistently clean your data? Data presentation, our stakeholders going to be able to access this data easily. There's been a lot of debate about all the parts of the infrastructure right now, but let's look at what is important for each layer. We'll start from data ingestion. Data ingestion, you want to be able to get data from a reliable source. You want to make sure that you have a direct connection, and you, depending on the industry you're in, you want to make sure the data ingestion process is also secure. And you also want to make sure that you are able to monitor the cost of your data ingestion. Anything can happen there. But in most cases, the data ingestion, once it's set up, is usually the most reliable. If the schema of the source doesn't change, it's usually the most consistent and doesn't bring much problems. I found that data ingestion is slightly a one-off for most projects. Once you get data ingestion in, it's out of the way. It's a part of the whole process that you rarely need to revisit, only if something totally breaks or you need more data. The next step is the data transformation. This is where most SaaS businesses live, and this is also one of the most important parts of the 3 layers, because after you get the data in, whether it's consistent or it's not, this is where you focus on making sure the data is consistent, making sure that the data is able to be used by the analysts or anyone in the presentation layer. This environment is also owned by the data engineer in most cases, and same as the data ingestion layer. So whoever is working here potentially understands the data that they're receiving, and they're able to transform it in a way that the data analyst or whoever is presenting the data is going to be able to use it. So the core responsibility of the data transformation layer is to get the data in, I would say, a CSV format, or I would say an Excel format. Just think about it like that. You want to get the data in rows and columns, regardless of how you get it or how the data was initially ingested. In this same stage, some people focus on the modeling, but you can always move that to the presentation layer. On the 3rd layer, the presentation layer, this is where you make sure that the data that you have gotten that is clean and consistent now makes sense. Is where you then model, you create a relationship based on the existing relationship and deliver it to the stakeholders in a way that they can understand. So all of the data you're getting from YouTube, all of the data you're getting from LinkedIn, all of the data you're getting from Salesforce comes into the transformation layer, gets cleaned, there's a relationship. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean we got a lead from LinkedIn and we got certain revenue based off that lead, or we created an ad for a particular budget and we're able to generate revenue based off that ad? So that's what the presentation does. The presentation is mainly focusing on the value of this 3 process. So this is where the value lives. If at the presentation layer, you're not able to clearly deliver or answer the questions that the senior stakeholders have asked, then the whole work of the data ingestion and transformation goes to waste. And these are the 3 important layers I thought I should share with you, and I hope it was valuable. Instead of creating a map of this is the best data ingestion tool, this is the best transformation tool, and this is the best presentation tool, I believe it's important and to be more valuable to you to understand each of these layers and see how you can use them depending on the industry you find yourself, depending on the volume of data, and depending on the time of execution for that particular project. That's all, and those are the three important layers of any infra, modern infra, archaic infra. Those are the three most important parts. And like I said, make sure you're delivering value. Okay? Cheers.